Enterprise Management 360.
Welcome to this week's episode of Tech Chat. Today on Tech Chat we have a very special interview coming up with Martin Kuppinger. He is the founder of Kuppingercole and their Principal Analyst. So Martin wrote a blog post around balancing the cloud and hybrid reality, and I wanted to pick his brains a little bit more on this topic. So let's head on over to my desk and see what Martin's got to say on this matter. So Martin, thank you for joining me here today. The reason for this talk is that you recently published a blog post titled "There is a Price to Pay for Using the Shiny, Bright Cloud Service." And this revolves around the idea that the cloud is this hot trend, and even though it is a vital strategy, there's a lot of naivety surrounding it. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, as it was a very interesting read as we look at balancing the cloud and hybrid reality. So straight off the bat then, how do companies balance their expectations of what they need in terms of all these cloud services that they're being offered?
Yeah, I think the challenge starts with the fact that there's, on one hand, the experience that traditional on-premises software can be cumbersome to deploy, lengthy projects. So companies have their experience, and not all of that is positive. And then there's, on the other hand, this cloud thing which promises use it directly, just pay with your credit card. It's as a service you don't need to care about, and it's all modern and but that's basically that is to some extent true. The challenge is that the reality of businesses is that they already have a lot of IT usually. So very few businesses, particularly virtually no large business, is cloud only. So you have existing technology. You have a lot of requirements. And what frequently happens is that the focus is too much on, oh, I want to have this new thing. It's easy to deploy. It appears to be far cheaper than what you had. And so let's go there. But I think it's important to look at all functional and non-functional requirements, and particularly around how this works with your existing IT. That still can mean get rid of some things, and always, if you look at your requirements, be very clear about what requirements are really relevant. But sometimes I think the balance is not done exactly right, because there's this cool new stuff, everyone is heading there, and there are the things you have experience with which are not so easy to handle, and making this balance right is a challenge. So be very structured on that. Collect your requirements, functional, non-functional, across all you have. Rate these requirements, whether they are relevant, whether they will remain relevant, and then make your decision. And then look at what is really the right tool for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's them understanding, obviously, what their organization has, and then going from that, understanding what they need out of it, instead of just, I want all the bells and whistles, I want everything that's going to make it look good. So that makes sense. When people go towards a hybrid cloud approach, the biggest issue that people are likely to face is the security risk aspect. So how can organizations realistically manage how data is moved securely?
I think it starts before the data moving, and it starts before procuring a service. So one of the methodologies we use with advisory customers of ours is a cloud risk controls matrix, we call it, which is a standard approach which allows to evaluate the risks of deploying and using certain cloud services against defined criteria derived from various standards, such as ISO 27001. And if you do that right, you very quickly understand what is the specific risk of using a cloud service. So there are risks which are not only data risk, but login risks, legal risks, and other things. And there are the security risks. So what is the tenant responsibility, so use, and what is the provider responsibility, so their responsibility. You need to understand that who is responsible for which part of the security. What are the things you have to do? What are also the mitigations or the mitigating procedures you do if you say there's a risk? You should do this, by the way, the same way for any internal service you develop or you procure. Really analyze it against a standard set of criteria, understand which risks you have, how to mitigate this risk, and whether you can take the remaining risks or not. And that is the first thing. The second thing is then, if you go for cloud, then implement the mitigating procedures, and even more, understand which part of your data resides. So you need to be in control of where is the data, where is it moved, how is it used, implement also the standard things such as identity and access controls, etc., encryption, and all the other technologies. But that's something, if you start structured, it's very clear what you need to do. Then you can handle the risk of each and every environment because you understand it. And that's the premise for doing so. And I think the cloud is not a security challenge if you do it right. And it's the same holds true for every internal applications. Many of these have a massive security challenges, but some people believe they are still secure because they are behind a firewall, which is neither true as it is that the cloud is not secure. So it's about just doing it right.
That makes sense. And I think you nailed it on the head there. It's a case of do it right from the get-go and all solutions can be solved. So for most organizations that are kind of replacing their, let's say, legacy systems, that can be quite a tall order for them. Even organizations that have recently installed a new cloud system and now they're being told that there's a better cloud option for them. So how can people kind of look to the future with this and be confident that hybrid is the right option and it's here to stay?
With the hybrid thing to start, I think it depends on your organization. So for many organizations, hybrid is something which is here to stay for a long time. If you look at an insurance company, they might have a mainframe, they might have a life insurance contract which builds on a mainframe-based core, it's called a piece of technology. And as long as this contract is in use, as long as there are customers, it means the mainframe is here to stay. If you have a factory floor, you always remain hybrid because you have this on-site IT piece. For other businesses, it's a slow movement because there's a lot of old stuff which needs to be moved to more modern infrastructures. This will take long. So hybrid is a reality, and it's a reality for most businesses for a very long period of time. So we should look at it from that perspective. So that means for many businesses, it will be that their IT will be to some extent hybrid. For some businesses, it will be that they are more and more cloud. But even in cloud, and that's what you pointed out correctly, there's a legacy element in the sense of you have services you run for many years, maybe even, which are hard to replace. So if you started with a whatever cloud-based CRM 10 years ago, you might be pretty dependent on that. One of the things I mentioned is cloud risk controls metrics previously. One of the things is login risks. Understand how you get out of a service, and that's what you should do for every type of IT you procure. What is your exit strategy, so to speak? If you have that, a lot of things become easier. Understand how you can migrate your data away from a service, not only into the service, but also away from the service. Can you change that or not? That is a decision criteria. You need to look at that from the very beginning. So this is where all that starts. And then it's also about, to some extent, it's about good architecture. So if you think in services, if you understand the services, if you define the interfaces right, if you understand how to integrate and how to change a service without breaking all the integrations you had because you have a clearly defined service layer, then things become far simpler. So it's also about very good architecture. That's also part of the security, by the way. The more you use cloud services, the more these cloud services start to communicate, but you need to secure that communication. That's another element of the story. So it's basically about clearly structured decision-making and understanding the lock-in risk, having exit strategies, and preparing for the day where you want to move away from a service. And then you can deal with your environments. You also then can easily migrate one or other piece of your backend, which is sort of legacy today on premises, to something which is shiny, bright in the cloud, without breaking everything which connects to that. And this is just good architecture.
That makes perfect sense, and I feel like I've got a lot more knowledge from that, and I hope our viewers have as well. So Martin, thank you so much for your insight today on hybrid and cloud. Really appreciate it. I really enjoyed that insight provided then on hybrid. Martin has also written a great opinion piece for us last month on continuity, so make sure you check that out in the links below. Also, be sure to check out Kuppingercole.com for more insightful blog posts and just generally more information on what we discussed today. So I just want to let you guys know before we go today that there are two big events coming up at the end of the month, and they're both happening at the Olympia in London. So the first one that we're looking at here is the Cybersecurity and Cloud Expo. This is happening on the 25th and 26th of April. This is a two-day event of the top-level discussion around cybersecurity and cloud. This is going to be talking about the impact they are having on industries including government, energy, financial services, healthcare, and more. Second event we're looking at, again 25th and 26th of April, is the AI and Big Data Expo. So this is the leading artificial intelligence and big data conference and exhibition event. So it's going to be a showcase of the next generation technologies and strategies of the world of AI and big data. Now, if you're interested in generating leads for your business, you can reach us at the Tell Us Your Audience page. We can distribute your content across North America, APAC and Europe to deliver SQLs and MQLs right back to you. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Tech Chat. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, go to the website as well, em360tech.com, and of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel for more great Tech Chat videos like this.